She has a tree in her backyard that spits out 20s.
That would be in your backyard, but I just go and steal from it.
You mean Amy's?
Cancel that. I think it's someone else.
Invited you too.
We are gonna call the Novi Board of Education meeting to order. Tonight is January 20th, and this is our regular meeting. I wanna welcome everybody here this evening. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're gonna move to our approval of the agenda, and I know Mr. Mena is gonna ask for a modification.
Yeah, just a correction, the proposed courses, there's actually two, but only one agenda item, so we just need to split that into yoga and the
Study skills.
study skills.
Okay.
I'd move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Smith and supported by Mr. Cook. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We'll move on to our first item this evening, which is awards, recognitions, presentations. And we have an opportunity for the Life Changer Award recognition. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin, and I will turn to Dr. Kinzer. This is a very much deserved award for one of our staff members, and so I will let Dr. Kinzer introduce this.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. The Life Changer of the Year Award is an annual program sponsored by the National Life Group that recognizes and rewards K-12 educators and school employees across the country. This program celebrates those who are making a significant difference in the lives of students by exemplifying excellence, positive influence, and leadership. Since 2011, they've recognized more than 5,000 school employees from more than 2,000 school districts. This year, 2021-22, there were 843 Life Changer Award nominees, and Kathy Ferris, our district nurse, was among them. Tonight, we'd like to take a moment to publicly recognize Kathy Ferris and express our deep appreciation to her for being among the National Life Changers of the Year, but more importantly, for being our life changer here in the Novi Community School District and for doing all that she does for our students, staff, parents, and the community. So I would like to just echo Dr. Matthews' sentiments and make it really clear how deserving Kathy is for this recognition. When I think about what we've done in the last 2 years, there's no way we could have been successful without Kathy. I am very aware of all that she does every day and has done for a long time in this school district. So I'm very happy to recognize Kathy Ferris as a nominee for the National Life Changer of the Year Award. They will, later in the spring, narrow this group of nominees down, and I promised Mr. Sipple that I would recognize this, that if you go to the district's Facebook page, you can click on a link that will allow you to support Kathy moving forward in this award program that will work into the spring. So, congratulations, Kathy.
I just want to take a minute to thank everyone. It's been a little challenging the last 2 years, but I appreciate everyone's work and collaboration with me. Couldn't have done it without everyone. So I appreciate you all. I appreciate the relationships that I've built in this community, and I'm really proud. So thank you.
Dr. Ruskin, I'd just like to take a minute to express my appreciation to Ms. Ferris. We've become best friends over the last 2 years, and you know, she was a part-time nurse for us, and then she agreed to come on board as our full-time nurse, and I don't believe she understood how challenging it was going to be, but she has never complained. She has always stepped up and done the work, and I appreciate it.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yeah, me too.
Please. Okay, you better go first.
You go first.
Okay, go ahead.
So I have had the pleasure of being with Mrs. Ferris on the field trip in the 8th grade. several times, and I don't know how she does it, because she gets no sleep. She is monitoring kids all night. She is making sure everybody stays safe and healthy. I know we've had kids that have all kinds of different health challenges that we want to encourage to go, and so Kathy agrees every year to go. And I'm not sure how long she sleeps when she gets back, but I hope it's like 24 hours. Because it's a 24/7 or 24/4 kind of deal there, and she has been phenomenal. And I've loved being there, seeing her care and her concern and her, just even the way she treats the kids with such dignity and respect. It's really, they respond to that really well, and I think that's really a very special.
Thank you.
We're proud of you, too.
Mr. Smith?
Kathy, I just wanted to compliment you. I never had a reason to interact with you on a one-to-one basis when I first met you, but you were always crammed into some office, whether it was sharing space with Ellen or Jason, and as I worked with the NEF, I would see your office in there. And the amount of work that you do from such a humble, small cubicle, I hope you have your own office now with charts and strings and lines and stuff like that. And so I always appreciated that. I remember one time watching you and you're like, gosh, you know how many EpiPens I have to make sure are in all the buildings, and I never really thought of it. And then to fulfill the hopes of some community member that left notes in my mailbox when all three of my kids got COVID, and I had the chance to work with you in your tracing work, it's mind-blowing. I don't know if any of you, I hope not, but if you had to deal with that whole tracing, and back when we were quarantining, and it's impressive because she's calling our house and she's interviewing the kids and then calling their friends and interviewing them, and well, who are you with and who'd you see this weekend? It's a lot of work that I got to witness firsthand, and I just want to express my personal appreciation for helping my kids, and then the appreciation as the board for the work you do to help all of our kids. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
President Nelson. So,
Yes.
all right, there you are. So 12 years we've known each other, and I first met you as a parent, and really as a stalwart example of one of the things that makes our community public schools amazing is not only the parent involvement, but people like you who go way beyond that and actually say, is there any way possible that I could be of service to you in a professional capacity from a nursing piece because of what I see in my own kids' elementary school? So what many people might not understand is, with the EpiPens, as Bobby is saying, with the pieces going to DC, but also Section 504, in the students that are in need of medical support in their daily life just to come to school and function. And to have you interacting with the parents, to have you helping us build those 504 plans with the parents and with the students in conjunction with the teachers, provides a level of safety and security, I know, for the homes of parents who have those kids in them, that we have you attending to them. But that's the story that people don't know, is you came to inter-school council and PTO meetings as you advocated for all of the kids. You also put your hand up and said, I think there's even more I could do, and I would be willing to do. And to really walk away from, in my opinion, a very prestigious job that you had at Mott, and to say, I want to serve the community where my kids are in school and I want to serve where I live, speaks volumes about your character. So for all of the parents who really do know you in ways that most people don't, thank you. And I know that from a building administrator standpoint, that they as a group are exceedingly grateful to have you a phone call away. Strip even the past 2 years of COVID. This was the decade that I knew you prior, that you were there to make sure that kids got what they needed in some pretty scary moments for them. So thank you so much for being willing to step up and being a wonderful parent in this community.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
Maybe just to her husband, thank you for sharing her with us.
Yes, I was going to say, Kathy's very humble and does not like this kind of recognition, but it is so very well deserved. I mean, you are a mom of kids who attend school, who are in college, and you just work tirelessly. So I do not believe that she does sleep. If she does, it's very rare. And besides doing this and still helping over at Mott and just being a phone call away, morning, noon, night, holidays, we appreciate you and your family for giving what you give to our community.
Thank you so much.
Okay, congratulations again. We will move on to our next agenda item, and that is reports to the board. We have one report to the board this evening. It is the proposed land swap agreement with the city of Novi. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. Dr. Weber, I would ask you to go to the podium so you can click up through the presentation.
Oh, wait a second, my fingers are, limber them up a little bit. Are you gonna tug the left ear or the right ear? Do you want me to do that?
So, as the Board of Education knows, the Novi Community School District and the City of Novi and Plant Moran Cressa have been speaking together for several months about trying to create a land swap between the district and the city. And this proposal is presented tonight and was discussed with the board on November 18th, 2021. And tonight, we'd like to kind of give you the final proposal that we will have with the city of Novi. And this will be presented at the city council on Monday evening. So the first thing to note is that our school district and the city of Novi have had a long-standing great partnership. We've done a number of things together throughout the 11 years that I've been here, and I know the board and the city council have worked together on many projects even before I was part of the district. And so this is just another example of that great partnership that we have with the city of Novi. And make sure I have this on. And let's see. So this is an exchange, which is an act of giving one thing and receiving another. And so we're going to show you what that exchange between the city of Novi and the district will be. So exchange of approximately 140 acres, all within the city of Novi and the Novi Community School District boundary. And the land exchange proposal from the city to the schools and from the schools to the city, plus or minus 70 acres each. So over at Novi Middle School, you will see currently what we have. You will note on the left-hand map that shows that the tennis courts, for example, are split down the middle, and the city of Novi has part of those, and the school district has part of those. And so the proposal is to exchange that property so that all becomes district property. We would gain full ownership of the soccer fields that are there, the tennis courts, the basketball courts, and property to the east of Novi Middle School. We anticipate, hopefully, that this will become part of an outdoor education project that we have in the planning stages at this point. But this would certainly benefit the district by creating some opportunities with the tennis courts, the basketball courts, and that additional property there. The second is over at Bosco. We currently have leased the property, the front part of the property along 11 Mile Road and Beck to the city for fields. Those fields hopefully will be ready to be used this spring. But the back part of the property is still owned by the district. This proposal proposes giving both sections to the city, and they would receive full ownership of Bosco Fields, with the intention to expand the Novi Park system. Over at Novi High School, you will note that the intent is to kind of square off some property. There's a little piece of First Park that the district currently owns that would go back to the city. But then below Novi High School, where the current softball field is, that property that is south of the school would become part of the district. So the city would square off First Park, and Novi Community School District would acquire land south of the baseball fields, including the current softball, baseball fields, and the cross-country trails and wetlands. We believe that this has several community benefits. There would be expanded recreational opportunities for students and residents. It would free up existing athletic fields for alternative uses. It would additional contiguous acreage to existing Novi Community School District facilities. It would provide the opportunity to increase the park system in response to current and future recreation needs. And it would further demonstrate the commitment or partnership for the betterment of Novi. We present this to the board tonight, believing that the board will ask us to continue to move forward. We will do our due diligence and get a surveyor out to do all the boundaries. We will complete the contract that we have with our attorneys and the city attorneys. And then hopefully sometime this spring, we could bring back that final contractual agreement to the board so that you could approve that, and then we would finalize the deal of this land swap with the city. So that's our presentation this evening, and the hope is that the board will help us kind of continue to work in a synergistic way with the city of Novi to move this project forward.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Do board members have any comments, or I know we had some time together in closed session prior to this. If you have anything that you want to add publicly, this will come back to us, I'm assuming.
Once we get the land surveyed and the contract completed.
Okay. Okay.
And if you do have questions or concerns between now, over the next several weeks, you can certainly contact me, and I will be in contact with the city of Novi, and we'll get those questions answered for you.
Thank you.
Steve, just one thing, do you think like in your weekly update, you could just kind of tell us where we're at, kind of?
Sure,
on
yeah,
running
I'll keep you
things
posted.
So that
Yep,
we can know timeline?
Sure.
Wise, that would be helpful.
okay.
So no one else has that. Okay.
Thank you. And will this report be put on our website?
Yes,
Dr.
we can
Matthews?
put the report on the website.
Okay, great. Thank you. All righty, we will move on to our next agenda item. Our next agenda item is comments from the audience related to specific agenda items that are on our agenda this evening. Individuals who wish to address the board must identify themselves. Your address you can just write on the green card and leave in the back or hand to Mrs. Holly so she can record it in public record, and any organization that you may be representing. The board and individual board members will not directly respond to comments or questions that arise during the public participation portion of the meeting. Individuals who wish to address the board shall direct their comments to the entire board and not to individual board members, the superintendent, other school district employees, or members of the audience. Behavior that is intemperate, abusive, defamatory, or discourteous, or that otherwise interferes with the orderly conduct and timely completion of the board meeting is strictly prohibited. There's a 5-minute time limit. Mr. Mena has a handy dandy new timer, so he doesn't have to scream out and tell people 30 seconds, like, just an uncomfortable thing, I think, for both the community members and for Mr. Mena, so.
Oh, not for me.
Okay, seeing none, there will be a second opportunity for comments from the audience later in our agenda. We'll move on to consent agenda. And this evening, we have 2 parts: approval of the minutes, the regular meeting minutes of January 6, 2022, closed session meeting minutes of January 6, 2022, work session meeting minutes of January 13th, 2022. Part B is approval of the bills, both the board report, the check register for November 2021, and the purchase card report for October 1 through October 31st, 2021. If I can get a motion. Mrs. Murphy?
I'll move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve the consent items as presented. Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Murphy and supported by Mrs. Roney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We will move on to our action items. This evening, we have 4 action items, actually 5, since we broke out the proposed courses. And we will start with the personnel report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. I'll turn to Dr. Kinzer.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. This evening, we have 2 new hires. Megan Pulse, a PE, physical education health teacher at Novi High School, and Shane Dukes, social studies journalism teacher, also at Novi High School. We also have 1 resignation, Catherine Ammons, food science teacher at Novi Middle School.
Thank you, Dr. Kinzer. If I can get a motion? Mrs. Hood?
Sure. I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education adopts the personnel report recommendations as presented.
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mr. Mena. Yes, Mrs. Murphy?
It's not very often we see a TBD on the effective date. Do we have any idea when he'll be starting?
I believe that we're still working with his,
Current.
no, I can't, I don't have an answer for you,
Okay.
but I'll get you an answer. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's okay. Sorry, I just noticed it.
Yep.
So I should have sent a note to you before.
It's
I
okay.
asked, so you could be prepared. Sorry about that.
I'll send that an answer to the entire board.
Yeah, just curious when he'll be starting. And are we going to have to replace, Catherine Amons has been out. So will we have to, do we have a replacer, a long-term sub?
It's posted.
It's already posted,
Yep.
okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Murphy. Any further questions for Dr. Kinzer? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kinzer. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. We will move on to our action items. We have 2 proposed courses this evening. We will start with the yoga and math course proposal. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. Ms. Leanne Mulder, physical education teacher at Novi High School, would like to propose the addition of an elective course, yoga and math fitness. This course is designed for any level of yoga and will empower students to take control of their mental and physical health. Yoga helps students to regulate emotions, behaviors, and thoughts in many environments and provides an opportunity for reflection, mindfulness, grounding, and a space to relieve anxiety. This course will also fill a physical education course requirement. This course was presented to the board at their work session last week and comes back to the board tonight for approval. We did have a question as to whether or not this would meet the physical education requirement at the high school, and our reading of the Michigan Merit Curriculum and their requirements seems to indicate that this would fulfill that requirement.
Thank you. May I get a motion? Mrs. Murphy.
I move to that the Novi Community School District Board of Education approve the Novi High School yoga and math course as presented.
Support. Recommended by Mrs. Murphy and supported by Mrs. Roney. Do we have any questions? Mr. Mena?
I will be supporting this. I think it's a great idea. I just want to reiterate maybe a comment that I made at the work session last week, and a concern that I've had with the course cataloging for quite some time. What I don't hear yet is what the potential impact, maybe negative impact, is to continue adding courses to the course catalog, and how that might affect, the opportunity for kids to take other elective classes that they want, but maybe have it canceled because we have yet another opportunity and we don't have enough kids to fill those classes. So maybe that's could be a topic of conversation for the curriculum committee maybe. But it is something that, at some point I'd like addressed before we continue going down and adding more and more classes. So just so you know, I will be supporting these today,
Sure.
but I do at least want to have that conversation
Sure.
sometime between, hopefully sooner, but at least sometime between now and the next time we add
Yeah.
another course to either the middle school or.
We'll get some numbers from the high school and middle school about how many courses don't run every year and present that, start at curriculum council, or the curriculum committee and move forward.
And Mr. Mena and Dr. Matthews, the situation is that our course catalog and the courses that are offered are predicated on the choice of the students, and for better or worse, we've always done it. And it's a supply and demand type of piece. Some courses naturally fall off due to lack of interest, content, or what have you. So when we do have courses in the catalog that indeed don't run, and I can understand that some students may feel compromised to see that, the flip side would be the kids who are filling the courses that are running who feel satisfied to have that. So I think it'd be a good discussion in curriculum committee.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can, just another similar concern, if you have kids who sign up for a class, let's say 7 kids, and it's not enough, right? Have they potentially lost their opportunity for another class that they may have wanted but already filled up because they had decided to put their name in a class which isn't running? We don't have to get into those details now, but those are the type of questions that I want answered, just to make sure. That would be a negative impact on doing something like this, that's why.
Yeah, we'll get some information on how the course selection process goes at the high school.
I think it may be helpful, and just, this is my 2 cents, maybe to have a couple of the counselors there too,
Sure.
just to answer questions as they come up, because I know that on course selection sheets currently, the students get to put like first, second, and third choice, but they certainly know how to run that crazy puzzle for each student, so it would probably be helpful to have them there during those conversations.
I'm making notes for the curriculum.
Yep.
committee. Thank you.
Thank you there, Mrs. Murphy.
You know, when you think about it, you know, we have 2,000 students at high school, they each have to have 6 periods a day. So there's 12,000 selections that have to be fitted into that giant puzzle.
Yep, it's tricky.
It is.
Any other comments or questions specific to the yoga and math course proposal? No? Okay, hearing none, I think that we're ready for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. We'll move on to our second proposed course, which is our high school and middle school study skills course proposal. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Eskin. Ms. Emily Polanski, principal of Novi Virtual, would like to propose the addition of 2 elective courses, high school study skills and middle school study skills. These courses will not replace any existing courses. It will be in addition to the courses that are already offered at Novi High School and Novi Middle School. These courses will provide students in grades 7 through 12 with the opportunity to strengthen their skills in the following areas: note-taking, executive functioning, time management, everyday math with real-world application, effective communication, presentation skills, comprehension techniques, goal setting, personal reflection. These courses fill a need for students who need an elective credit or a senior math credit, and students will have the opportunity to apply the content to their courses that they are taking concurrently. Students can take this course more than once as needed to support their learning. This course was presented to the board at their work session last week and comes back to the board tonight for approval.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. If I can get a motion?
Can
Mrs.
I-
Roney?
I'll make a motion that the Novi Community School Board District of Education approve the Novi High School and Novi Middle School Study Skills course as proposed.
Thank you.
Can I just ask for clarification really quick before we
Okay.
move on? In grades 7 through 12, I thought it was 8 through 12. Are we leaving it at 7 through 12? Can I ask you, Mrs. Polanski?
Yes, you may ask her. You may come to the podium to answer.
I think we agree.
So we're gonna put it in the course catalog for the middle school and the high school with the idea that next year we would run it in 8th grade, but leaving the door open, especially after our conversation with the curriculum committee last time, thinking about what does it look like, is it also appropriate to support 7th graders with this
Okay.
option?
Fantastic. Thank you for the clarification. I just didn't know if we might need to change the amendment. But I will support.
Thank you.
Mrs. Roney and her-
Recommended by Mrs. Roney and supported by Mrs. Murphy. Are there any specific questions? We have Mrs. Polanski here, and I know we had a pretty robust discussion about this at our work session, and that did come up about 7th graders and making it valuable opportunity for them as well. Mr. Mena?
Are we adding this to Novi Virtual as well?
Yes.
No, okay. Yeah, go up there and just say yes.
High school calls.
So we will, our 7th grade students and 8th grade students that are in virtual courses are considered Novi Middle School students.
And Novi High School students.
And our 9th through 12th grade students who are in Novi Virtual are considered Novi High School students. We just only offer so many classes virtually. And we intend that study skills be one of the limited list of classes that we do offer virtually.
Thank you.
So just so I understand, and this is more of a virtual question. Any class that you teach virtual has to be available at either the high school or catalog or the middle school catalog? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because they're Novi High School students, it has to be in our Novi High School course catalog.
And I know we had this conversation before, and I know this is a little bit off track, but with regards to students who participate in Novi Virtual, are they able to participate in some of the other groups and activities and clubs at the high school and middle school as well?
Absolutely. One of the
Including
things we
athletics?
say is we say we are all Wildcats.
Okay.
And so we want to make sure that our virtual students can still be athletes for Novi. They can still participate in robotics and in clubs. And many of these students aren't necessarily in virtual because they need to be home all the time. They have a particular want or need to do some of their learning in their own space at their own pace. And so the fact that some of them can spend some time at home doing their virtual learning and then come in and do their after-school sports, that's a real win for those students and families.
And these these kids who graduate from Novi Virtual, are they in essence graduating from Novi High School?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely,
And
they are
then
Novi High School
They
students.
would walk with the
Yes.
kids?
Yep.
And some students have some in-person classes and some virtual classes at the high school.
Okay, so that was my last question.
Okay.
And I know we touched on this before, but there's some of those, I know there's some unanswered questions about maybe some of the futures, things that we're
Right.
looking at with virtual, but,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
I'm happy to come back and share more, or you can come have a tour with me at the Roar Center if you'd like.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Plansky, and thank you, Mr. Mena, for your questions. Are there any other questions? Mr. Cook?
This is timely because I think it was earlier this fall that I had a discussion with Dr. Matthews about getting more in-depth with the students on executive functioning and getting it more formalized. So to me, this does it. My only concern, I'm going to support it. My only concern is you've got, everyday math and real-world application, which is going to cover 2-3 weeks of this course. How does it qualify for a senior level math course at that point when you're only getting that very little in, math?
Just stay up there.
That's a wonderful question. In order to graduate, you don't, it doesn't have to be a senior level math course in the way you would think it'd be Algebra 2 is the requirement to graduate. And so some of our students complete Algebra 2 and then their senior year need a senior math credit, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a senior level math course. And so other courses that count as senior math credits are all of our art classes.
Graphic design,
Yeah.
things of that nature.
They
Yeah.
have to have a percentage
Yep, a
of
certain amount.
math within the curriculum. And so we meet
Genetics
the
and medical
letter-
technology counts,
We meet
physics
the letter
counts,
of the
yeah.
law here.
Yep.
So what is that percentage that it's got to have in the curriculum?
I asked that exact same question, and we actually, it's not as much as you would think. And so, because when I was really outlining the Common Core math standards that we'll be looking at for even other courses, they aren't specific to, you have to meet this specific type of standard.
And
So
that's
it's
part of
not-
the Michigan Merit Curriculum, and that also CTE courses that count for it and so on. A number of years ago, there was a bit of backlash to not having enough availability of senior level type math courses, and this is how the state chose to address that. So it's very broad. So your question about, well, that seems like a little bit of a stretch is a very good question, because it is. However, we've seen real success in our CTE classes, and now I believe this course as well could do that.
And I had personal experience like this when I was a student at Novi High School, when I had hit a point, when I did pre-calculus as a junior, and I knew, even though I'd gotten a pretty high score in that class, that I was in a place where I needed some more support before I moved on. And so I spent my senior year doing something called independent study math, which you're not allowed to do anymore, but I had an adult who could help me review and get ready to go, and then I went on to go to college and get a math minor and do really well. But I just needed a moment to regroup and review before I was ready to take on calculus.
That's what most people do.
Do you have any other questions for me?
You should just stay there.
All right.
Are there any other questions from board members?
No, I would like to say that I really appreciated the time that you took to explain it all to us at the work session and your reasoning and the rationale behind it. It sounds like you thought it through really well, and it has the potential to really address several gaps or concerns that exist both at our virtual and our regular physical high school, I don't know whatever that is. So I really appreciated that. It was good to hear the thought process that went into it, and I'm excited about it. I think to Mr. Cook's point, those executive functions that everybody needs as they go out in the world is something that we don't have a lot of direct access to in terms of this is what we're teaching. So appreciate it.
Explicit instruction.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Plansky, for all of your work and diligence researching and presenting this course to us.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. If we are ready for a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. We'll move on to action item C, which is proposed refunding 2014 school building and site bond series 1. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. The Novi Community School District is presenting a bond authorizing resolution to be adopted by the board. The purpose of this bond authorizing resolution is to aggregate the principal amount of not to exceed $30 million as finally determined upon sale thereof for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of the issuer's outstanding 2014 school building and site bond Series 1 dated June 19, 2014. The bond refunding team is comprised of Stiefel Nicholas, the bond underwriter, PFM Financial is the financial advisor, and Troon is the bond counsel. The proposed resolution was submitted to the Board of Education for information and discussion at the January 6th board meeting and comes back tonight for approval. And if you have questions, Mr. McIntyre has all of the answers.
Or at least a lot of paper.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. If I can get a motion? Mrs. Murphy?
I recommend that the Novi Community School District Board of Education, in the best interest of the Novi Community School District, adopt the attached bond authorizing resolution to aggregate the principal amount of not to exceed $30 million as set forth therein for the purpose of refunding all or portion of the issuer's outstanding 2014 school building and site bond Series 1 dated June 19th, 2014.
Thank you, Mrs. Murphy. Do we have support? Recommended by Mrs. Murphy and supported by Mrs. Hood. Do we have any specific questions for Mr. McIntyre? Mr. Mena?
Mr. McIntyre, you think you can give an executive summary? I'm sure that a lot of people listening have no clue on what this actually means here. So what exactly are we doing? What are we doing here?
So we issued the bonds at one price, and now we have an opportunity to go back and resell those bonds at a lower rate, and that translates into roughly about a $2.5 to $2.7 million savings to the taxpayer. So there's what you call a call date on these bonds. So now we're at a point now where we can take advantage and get a lower rate, or a different rate, a better rate, I should say, and then that translates to a tax savings for our taxpayers.
So in essence, like, it's like refinancing?
It's like refinance,
Okay.
basically, yeah.
We've done this
Like
many
this one.
times before. It's just that nowhere did we really talk about what kind of a savings we were going to have. So I thought it might be worthwhile for folks
Yeah.
to hear and understand that.
So that 2.7 I just gave, that's based on the rate at this time, so when we finally close, it could be a little bit different, but the savings is still significant enough to warrant us being happy about a savings to our taxpayers.
So how does the taxpayer actually see that savings?
Well,
Because that 2.7 doesn't come to the general fund, and it doesn't necessarily get refunded to their,
right, so, you know, when we issue bonds, the taxpayer contributes towards that bond, when
Right.
they pay their taxes, so in essence, if you just wanted a high-level snapshot, it would drive that down a little bit, is what it would do, that overall tax bill.
so the mills associated with these bonds would reduce on the tax bills?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Assuming no other villages are out there, everything remained the same, then the answer to that question would be yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mena. Any other questions for Mr. McIntyre? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. We'll move on to our final action item, which is the 2022 School Building and Site Bonds Series 2. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. The Novi Community School District is presenting a bond authorizing resolution to be adopted by the board. The purpose of this bond authorizing resolution is to aggregate the principal sum of not more than $55 million for the purpose of funding a portion of the bond project. The bond shall be designated 2022 School Building and Site Bonds Series 2. And again, the bond underwriter is Stiefel Nicholas, financial advisor is PFM, bond counsel is Troon. And as you recall, back in 2019, the community approved a bond. We sold a portion of those in Series 1. This is coming back to sell the second series, which is Series 2. As you recall from what we did in 2019, we said we would have 3 series of sales of bonds. So we've sold Series 1 already. This is selling Series 2. And in 2024 or 25, we'll come back with Series 3. So this $55 million is Series 2 in that bond. And so we would ask the board to approve this tonight. It was discussed at the January 6th board meeting. And as I said, comes back to the board for approval tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. If I can get a motion, Mr. Mena?
I move that the board adopt the attached resolution authorizing the issuance and delegating the sale of the Novi Community School District 2022 School Building and Site Bond Series 2.
Do we have support?
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Mena and supported by Mrs. Murphy. Do we have any specific questions on this?
I have one.
Yes, please, Mr. Smith.
I had a resident approach me and asked me if they could buy some of these bonds. And I said, probably not.
You can.
How would they do that? Would they approach PFM?
Well, no, it would be Stifel, Nichols, they're the ones who are gonna put them on the street for us. So, the taxpayers certainly, absolutely have an opportunity to purchase some of these bonds.
So
That's
they'd
what I like about
contact
it.
Stifel directly?
Yes. Or I can get them more information on how we can do
And
that.
I'll send you an email.
Okay, that'd be fine. Yeah,
Our credit rating's pretty good here.
It is.
it is.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other questions regarding this recommendation? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which is comments from the audience. The same guidelines as read before apply, so please step up to the podium if you have anything to share during this time with the board.
Hi, everybody. Julie Madej, 50876 Chesapeake. Before I get started with my presentation, I just wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody. And I want to applaud you for the discussion that you had on adding those 2 courses. Great discussions, great courses, and I love the transparency. Couldn't be happier about replacing a potentially, quite honestly, in my opinion, silly gym class with something that might be useful. And to Ms. Polanski's class, I could think of so many kids that would benefit from that, especially after COVID last year and the learning gaps that have been created. So great choices, and I'm in full support of those. But I'm just going to read to you my notes. Hopefully I'll make it complete within the timeline. We have seen parents nationwide advocate against critical race theory, who are often dismissed by school administrators by stating that CRT is a theory taught in law school and not to public school children, just as it was dismissed in a recent Novi curriculum meeting by our administration. This dismissal is a red herring, and when parents talk about CRT in the classroom, what they are really talking about is programming that is situated in a view of history focused on oppression, privilege, and power, and viewing all outcomes with the lens on race, class, and gender. We should not dismiss parents for making a technically flawed assertion when we all know what we are talking about. Within Novi Public Schools, that curriculum falls under the guise of social emotional learning, or SEL. Currently, social emotional learning is being used for programming at least once a week in Academic 20 and Academic Advisory. A20 and AA has historically been used for students to ask for help in subjects they may be struggling with, to meet with a counselor as needed, or to catch up on homework. That changed this fall with the implementation of SEL. We bring this forward as our district is implementing SEL across all facets of the Novi curriculum, as was stated in a previous school board meeting. In fact, when the SEL curriculum was presented to the community over the summer, the board said, in quotes, "Did we approve this?" We don't know the answer. We don't know if the community ever got a direct answer to that question. Novi developed an SEL guide for K through 6 in returning to school after COVID, understanding that our students were put under tremendous emotional strain over the previous year. It's unfortunate, but our administrators have co-opted the idea of supporting students socially and emotionally to push political and moral agendas on our students. On Novi's website, SEL is mentioned in a brief section around developing the social and emotional competencies in students with some general bullet points. If you look at Novi's K through 6 SEL guide, there are many things in our SEL curriculum that no parent would disagree with, including the following on page 10. Demonstrating a sense of personal responsibility, demonstrating an awareness of emotions, managing emotions constructively, demonstrating awareness of different cultures and respect for human dignity, using positive communication and social skills to interact effectively, and lastly, modeling effective decision-making skills and dealing responsibly with academic and social situations. These, among other elements of our tremendous SEL curriculum, are positive and should be promoted for all of our students. However, there seems to be other agendas at play, and we'd like to provide you tonight with some specific examples.
Thank you, Mrs. Majay.
Hi, Chris Holman, Peninsula Drive. So if you read through the K through 6 SEL guide, which we obtained via FOIA, it's not posted on the website, as many of the elements of our SEL program come from the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, or CASEL. So who is CASEL and what are their goals? In a presentation by CASEL's Director of Practice, Karen Von Ostel, titled Leveraging SEL to Promote Equity, there's a number of things that they bullet out in there. They view SEL as transformative for educational equity. And what they point out are, what it can be used for is one, or how they promote SEL is one, creating school environments situated in a global history of power, privilege, oppression, resistance, empowerment, and self-determination and liberation that is raced, classed, and aged, and gendered. Using equity teachings in SEL to appreciate that structural and internalized oppression are the root causes of inequities. And they promote using SEL as a viable lever for justice-oriented civic and socio-political development trajectories. So I want to repeat that. Using it as a lever for socio-political development trajectories of students. The idea that any school would promote or implement a program designed to shape a student's political beliefs across the curriculum is simply wrong and should be stopped. If you begin reading Novi's guide, you'll notice that it starts with a focus on social and emotional learning, which I think, at a base level, we all don't have an issue with, but it immediately starts focusing on equity, culture, and ethnic racial identities. Page 7 of Novi's SEL guide begins prompting K through 6 students to do the following: develop an understanding of systemic or structural explanations for different treatments and outcomes, assess the impact of their personal beliefs and biases, and reflect on how actions taken by individuals, groups, and institutions impact equity. In short, this is the beginning of pushing a social justice ideology that, if one falls short in achievement, don't look at personal responsibility necessarily, but look at structural excuses and other systems of oppressions as reasons. Page 8 and 9 outline that SEL is not simply about social and emotional development, but about social justice, which the section is explicitly titled. The section begins by linking to Teaching Tolerance, a group that's recently been rebranded Learning for Justice. On their homepage was a section entitled Critical Race Theory, What It Means for Educators. So while there's, quote, there are no anti-CRT laws in Michigan, but this site gives educators resources for skirting around the edges where its teaching is banned. So while our administrators can say that we don't teach CRT in Novi schools, we really don't have a problem linking our teachers to resources on it. Within the classroom resources for grades K through 5 on this website, there's a whole section on white anti-racist biographies. These suggested readings are explicitly for white students, quoting the website, quote, for young white students, explorations of fair and unfair, just and unjust can go a long way to advancing anti-racist white identity, unquote. Note that last phrase, advancing anti-racist white identity. As parents, we teach our kids to treat everyone fairly, but to push anti-racist activism is much different than simply not being racist. In other words, it's not enough for our students to simply treat others equally. They must become activists according to this curriculum. Our K through 6 SEL guide also explicitly links to the social justice standards on the Learning for Justice website. These standards are separated out by grade, so I just want to give you some examples. So in the first K through 2 section, so 5 through 7-year-olds, they are asking students to be able to recognize the following. 1, I know some true stories about how people have been treated badly because of their group identities, and I don't like it. Second example, I know that life is easier for some people and harder for others, and the reasons for that are not always fair. In the grades 3 through 5 standards, there's a soft introduction to the concept of privilege, with students being asked to state the following. I know that life is easier for some people and harder for others based on who they are, and where they were born. So as you read through these standards, you'll notice that there are several action standards. All of this is related to social justice, and it's a coercive means to turn students into activists. This is not about emotional health, this is about indoctrination.
Thank you, Mr. Holman.
Hi, my name is Michelle King, and I live at 48600 11 Mile Road. And again, I'd like to impress that when we ask for these guidelines, we only by filling out forms, we're able to get them through K through 6. There is nothing out there for our high schoolers. And we took an hour away from academics a week without acknowledging parents of that to instill this program, because we said that it was for their social learning to come back after a hard year of COVID. And I just don't feel that this is what this program is doing at all. And I'd also like to state that I've talked to administrators and Mrs. Carter and said, you took the A20 from that we have always had on Wednesdays, and which kids, where they can go get academic help and the things that they need, or go see their counselor, and you made that on Friday, and you made this program on Monday. And to me, you're putting that preference on that, because Friday, like my daughter just stated today, her tests are done for the week, and especially in high school, they're moving on to what they want to do for the weekend. They're not looking at, why isn't your academic on Monday and this program on Friday? Because I feel like you're giving precedence to this program, which we feel is wrong. So I'd like to continue on with where we go with this and this SEL guide that we had trouble getting, and which is posted nowhere on the website, and cannot even get to it for the older kids. So on page 8 of Novi's SEL guide links to K-12 social justice resources for teachers from the University of Iowa. On that page, we'll find a link to Radical Math, a guide for integrating issues of social and economic justice issues into mathematics curriculum, if that can really happen. The Radical Math provides several examples of how to incorporate social and economic justice into every part of the curriculum, including story problems about the SEIU fighting for higher wages. If you wonder why American kids are maybe doing so poorly versus other country in math scores, maybe it's because we're taking time away from just simply teaching math. And I believe this is happening in many of our courses. Again, we wanted to remind you that this SEL guide was developed to help with emotional needs for our kids as they return to the classroom after COVID. Was this guide really put together as a means for offering social and emotional support for students, or for pushing an equity and social justice program for students? I think the program that Mrs. Polonsky suggested, wouldn't that be perfect for every kid to get after being home in their bedroom for 2 years? Wouldn't that time be better spent in at age 20? That again, you never told parents you were doing. There has never came anything out to parents that you were going to do this. It was just instilled. If you take the time to look through it, it appears to be more focused on the latter, that it's more about a social justice program. If you look at friend groups in Novi schools, from my experiences, they tend to be wonderfully diverse. Our kids are so blessed to live in such a diverse community. The kids have figured things out on their own through shared experiences and have multicultural friendships. It is some of our leaders and parents imposing their insecurities and ideologies that is hampering progress. Social justice is not equity or equality, it is ideology, designed to provide certain social advantages to those deemed to have received injustice. People are not looked at as individuals, but as a collection of various groups that are either advantaged or disadvantaged. And this is very fair to label high school young children this way. The advantaged groups must be taken down a notch by taking their privilege from them, while the underprivileged should be taken up a notch by gaining from the privileged. And as again, I just don't think that this is a program that should be instilled into young minds, my opinion.
Thank you, Mrs. King.
Hi, Dave Madej, 50876 Chesapeake. And you guys are probably wondering how many more. This is almost done. But it's really important to us, and there were a lot of other people that had similar views, and I don't think this is going away. I think it's really imperative for the board to really take heart at this. We've been talking about transparency for well over a year now, and it's really time to react to it, to do the duty that we've asked of you, to put a pause on this implementation of the curriculum until it's reviewed, and the portions that, and there might be certain portions that need to be removed. Those that are around shaping our students' political trajectories or explicit social justice ideology. Those are things that don't need to be in our classrooms for our students. We would begin by asking why this guide and all the related materials are not posted transparently on the district website. You know, parents who do not do the diligence to obtain the information via the Freedom of Information Act have no idea what the heavy focus is, and they're shocked when we talk about it. They're shocked when they ask, how do you get it? Okay? And they're really shocked at what kind of social justice is being incorporated into the curriculum. If you don't think if you think we're wrong and you don't think that's there, then put it out there and be transparent about it. And we should not have to continue to ask that. We've demanded that now. We're demanding that. And it's not going to get better. The issue isn't going away. Okay, we think there are some actions that should be taken right now by the board. Number one, the teaching in SEL and the A20 and academic advisory that we've talked about, we would really like it to be what its original purpose was, so it actually helps the students and encourages them to get whatever needs they need assistance in relative to the school, setting up appointments with counselors, study hall, or whatever it is. It could be an opt-in with complete transparency of an SEL curriculum, but that's not what it is today. Okay, the second thing, the board should immediately initiate a review of the Novi's SEL curriculum and put a pause on implementation until you have a clear understanding of what's being taught and approve the curriculum and put it out there for everybody. Implementing social justice ideology training under the auspice of emotional support and returning from COVID, it's a breach of trust to the parents. There is no other way to say it, and you may not agree with it, but it's still a breach of trust to a vast majority of the parents. So whether you think we're right or not, there's a whole bunch of parents that think you're wrong. Okay, the last thing is we'd ask the superintendent and the administration should be tasked with making Novi the most open and transparent district in the state when it comes to providing parents with information about what's being taught. We always compliment this district of how great it is, and we always compliment, and the administration and the school board compliments the parents. But it seems like we don't want to work together on a very important issue that is critical to a lot of us. As parents, we can no longer trust what select members of the administration are promoting in our schools. I can't be any more plain about it. We don't trust certain people, okay? I wish we were solely focused only on academics, providing the emotional needs of our students, and some in the administration have, frankly, we feel have been taking advantage of the situation. In closing, I hope you will appreciate the seriousness of our concerns. This is not about being opposed to social and mental well-being. That's ridiculous. It's not about ignoring the history of our country that some people say. That's not what this is about. This is, however, about the administration or select members of the administration pushing social justice and other political causes in a non-transparent way. This is about a deliberate lack of transparency and intentionally misleading parents. We strongly request that the board do your elected duty, provide oversight to the administration, and help us prevent what we think is a serious concern of infecting classrooms with political ideology. The classroom is for learning. That's what we're asking for. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Madej. Any other comments?
Sujatha Raman, I'll fill out the card. I just wanted to, listening to some of the comments, I haven't read the materials, I haven't FOIA'd anything, so I don't have the material to refer to. But I will say that in my experience, I have two kids in the district. In my experience, anytime I've had a question, anytime I've had a concern, anytime that there's been anything that I have been unsure of, a simple reach out to my child's teacher, the principal, building administration. I have had nothing but great experiences with the administrators and the teachers that I have dealt with in this district. So that's number one. Number two, I agree that the classroom is a place for kids to learn. I don't think, however, that that's limited. I think that it is our job as parents too to talk to our kids about what they're talking about in school and have discussions with them. If we disagree with something that was presented at school, we talk to our kids about it. I know I do that. We have discussions every day in our house with our kids. What did they do in school? What did you talk about? What did you learn in each subject? Let's talk about it. You have questions? Let's talk about it. So I don't think, in my experience, I have not experienced a lack of transparency by anyone in the district. Granted, my kids are in 5th and 6th right now, so there's still time, but that has not been my experience. And I think there is a partnership. I think that parents need to be involved and they need to talk to their kids. And I wonder sometimes, I wonder if those conversations are happening sometimes, because what I hear from kids is different than what I hear from some of the comments that are made in forums like this. So just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further comments?
Can I add one comment?
You can.
That I feel like is important for you to know. I'd also like you to know that students, first of all, I think that we just came off of what we can all say was at an all-time low for Novi academics, as many schools, not that we failed in any way. I know you know that a lot of us parents were unhappy with the virtual system that we provided, and we feel like the kids really lost a lot in the last year and a half. And so we're just coming off of such a hard academic time for them. And now for you to just take an hour of academics away and not really show us that it's succeeding or it's helping with their emotional training, that just worries me that this is being done when I feel like time in the classroom would be better. But I know that students have asked at certain times, like, could I just opt out of doing this today? I don't want to do this today. I have a test later. I'd like to just go to the library and study. And they have explicitly been told, no, they are not allowed to opt out. So if a student's sitting there for a whole hour doing something that they do not feel is helping them, and they could go help themselves better academically in something that's being called academic advisory, they're being told no, they cannot do that. So I think that's a very important point for the board to know as well.
Thank you, Mrs. King. Do we have any further comments? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on in our agenda. We have the superintendent's report. Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Dr. Eskin. Tomorrow at Novi High School, beginning at 5:30 p.m., I would like to invite everyone to come and see 3 great high school basketball games. First, our Novi High School varsity girls play at 5:30 against Northville. Our unified team plays at 7 p.m., and our Novi High School boys varsity plays at 8 p.m. During halftime of our Novi unified game, Novi will be recognized as a Special Olympics Unified Champion School. On February 4th, Novi is participating with schools around the state to support Oxford High School by wearing Oxford Strong shirts. Anyone wearing an Oxford Strong shirt will get into the game that night for free. We have a Peach Jar flyer on our district website for more information and how you might be able to get your Oxford Strong shirt. Today I listened to State Superintendent Michael Rice talk about the teacher shortage in Michigan. In Michigan, teacher preparation program enrollment is down 56%, and teacher education completers are down 59% over the last 10 years. This multi-year effort in our state to diminish the status of teachers and administrators has had a profound effect upon the people who want to go into the field of education. We continue through Dr. Kinzer's office to attract high-quality teachers, but it truly has become a much more difficult challenge that State Superintendent Dr. Rice addressed today. And that's my report this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. We'll move on to the administrative reports. Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruskin. I'm going to talk a little bit about the January Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference. So some of you may have had a chance to listen in on that on last week, but
We're not laughing at you.
No, okay.
Go ahead, please. Go
We're
ahead.
just laughing at your assumption that
you missed a wonderful conference if you didn't listen in. But I'm just talking about.
It was a barn burner.
Yeah. So we're going to talk amongst ourselves in cabinet what it all means to us. I'm just going to focus on just a couple of numbers here. So there's a lot of moving money going in, and so 1.2 billion of carryover flowed into FY21. And so I'm going to talk about a top number and a bottom number. So the top number is what the balance is, the stated balance, and the bottom number I'm going to give you is what the structural balance is. That's monies that without all this extra money and the one-time savings. So for FY21, the balance in the school aid fund is 2.8 billion, but the structural balance is 1.7 billion. For FY22, it's projected to be 3.6 billion, but the structural balance is 719 million. For FY23, that stated balance is 4.6 billion. The structural balance is 1.0 billion. So that bottom number, you guys probably know by now I'm really conservative, so that bottom number is what I'm focusing on. So I'm looking at what we can get based on the school index fund for FY22 and 23. I'm tie-barring those years together. So we're looking at about a $72 increase in foundation allowance for FY22 and $198 in foundation allowance for FY23. So all this extra money out there, this one-time money, that $1.2 billion carryover, if you take that out, where do you land? That's what I'm trying to tell you guys right now. So right now, we may get a lot of that money. I don't know. I understand that the economy is well right now, but it's based on a lot of uncertainty in that forecast. Enrollment district statewide continues to drop, which is a challenge within itself. So I just put that number out there because you're going to be hearing different numbers, but you have to go behind the number and find out what the underliers are. So we'll be talking among ourselves in cabinet what that means to us, what we're going to look at going forward. So you have to tie-bar these years together. You just can't look at them in a silo. So I just want to put that out there for you guys. And as I get more, I'll come back with you guys and share with you. So this is the January CRE. There's the May CRE also. And you guys know how the budget works. The House has its plan, the Senate has its plan, and then the governor, and then they get together, massage the numbers, they agree on some numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. We appreciate that and your explanation and your updates. Dr. Kinzer.
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. A week from tomorrow, the 28th of January, I will finish my time as the interim principal at Deerfield. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Deerfield community, certainly our teachers and staff, as well as our parents and students mostly, for so graciously welcoming me at Deerfield. I've had a great experience there. And I'm also very excited for the 31st when Melissa Lane, our new Deerfield principal, will begin. I had a conversation with Mrs. Lane today, and she will be joining us in the district next Wednesday, spending most of the day at Deerfield, but also some time here at ESB as well as at Novi Woods, where we're going to have an elementary principal lunch meeting. And do all that we can to get her ready to start and hit the ground running on the 31st. And then certainly I will spend some time at Deerfield in those first few weeks to help her get acclimated. So really great change is looming on the near horizon for Deerfield Elementary School. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kinzer, and thank you for taking on that extra, I would call it an opportunity. And I know that the teachers and the parents and the students have appreciated having you there. I'm sure it was fun to be in the classroom, maybe for a period, or to be back in the building for a period of time, but I'm sure you're excited to meet and greet with Mrs. Lane and get her acclimated. So again, thank you. Mr. Smith?
I may have missed it because I know I was out of the country a couple weeks ago. Has she been here? Because I know when we hired Principal Carino, we had the opportunity to greet her.
We will bring her to the board.
Well, I don't like the way that sounds.
We invited her the day that we
Oh, okay.
approved her, her hire, and I'm just not sure that that was good timing
Didn't
for
work,
her.
okay.
So we can send a follow-up invitation.
Yeah. Okay, that'd be great. Perfect.
Any other questions? No? Okay, Dr. Weber.
Right on. So I'd like to thank Senator Jim Runstead. I met with Senator Runstead for about an hour and a half last week. Had some, I think, healthy conversation around topics in education right now, and I appreciate the fact that he came to my office, and I also brought him over to Village Oaks and hung out there for a little while as well. So thank you to Senator Runstead and his staff that I interacted with last week. I'd like to also say around the situation that we are all facing right now. I'm fortunate to be a resident here in Novi, to coach athletic teams here in Novi, to have served this community for 12 years, be a Rotarian. And probably the joy that I have is running into parents. You know, Dr. Matthews and I meet with different parent groups no less than 10 formal times a month. Everything from coffees with the superintendent, to book clubs with the superintendent, to inter-school council, to all of these different pieces. But it's really oftentimes those informal conversations where people reach out, have questions, conversation, and so on. And unequivocally, what I know is that our parents, we're coming up on, it's hard to believe this, but 2 years. You know, March 12th will be 2 years. And the stress and the load on our parents who are also trying to work and keep their homes together, as well as their kids, is tremendous. And I want to thank people for the privilege of that I have of them opening up and seeing our school district as a place that can help them or be of service to them. My heart is definitely with them. And then finally, I'm going to read something to each of you, and this is it's actually an obituary. And this is the obituary of Dr. Rita Trainer. And Dr. Trainer, some of you who have been in the community for some time knew. And I never had the pleasure of meeting her. However, hearing people speak about her and then reading her obituary to me was something of real deep inspiration. And I'd just like to share it with you. So for those of you who knew her, my condolences to you. I wish I would have known her, because when you hear what she did after her husband passed away at 52 years old, and how much life there is to live, it's an inspiration. And no, Mr. Money, you can't use the shot clock on me. All right. So Rita Trainer, 1926 to 2022. Rita Trainer, age 95, of Grand Rapids, Michigan, passed away peacefully on January 16, 2022. She was born in the Bronx, New York, and after marrying her husband, Carl Trainer, at the age of 27, moved to Ohio and later to Michigan. Carl passed away at the young age of 52, leaving Rita and her 2 daughters, Amy and Judy, far too early. Rita was always thankful that Carl supported her dream of being a teacher, something she always knew she wanted to be, but wasn't able to earn her college degree until the age of 45 by going to school part-time in the evenings at the University of Michigan, Dearborn. She started her career in education as a 4th grade teacher, Principal Ringgold is in the crowd, at Orchard Hills Elementary in Novi, and went on to become the district's assistant superintendent of instruction during her 31-year career with Novi Schools. While working full-time for Novi, Rita continued to attend classes in the evenings, earning her master's degree from Oakland University in 1976, and ultimately her doctorate of education degree from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor at the age of 64. She was passionate about her job, Novi Schools, and the kids she served. Rita was also a strong supporter of the public library system, volunteering on many committees in both Novi and Grand Rapids, where she moved after retiring at the age of 77. Rita was a voracious reader and avid traveler, and shared her love of both books and travel with her daughters and grandchildren, even taking all of them on an Alaskan cruise to celebrate her 80th birthday together. She moved from Novi to Grand Rapids after her retirement and remained active well into her late 80s as a volunteer for the Cascade Friends of the Library, the Knitting Service Club of Forest Hills Presbyterian, Frederick Meyer Gardens, Opera Grand Rapids, the Women's City Club, and the Grand Rapids chapter of PEO. In addition to her husband, Carl, Rita was also preceded in death by her oldest daughter, Judy Kegel. Despite any challenge, Rita continued to be a role model of resilience and strength for all who knew her. She will be lovingly remembered by her surviving daughter, Amy of Grand Rapids, and her grandchildren, Brendan from Indiana, Max in Indiana, Kate in Brooklyn, New York, and Will of Grand Rapids. She is also survived by her 4 great-grandchildren, Daisy, Henrik, Georgia, and Eleanor, and her sister, Marion of Larchmont, New York. A celebration of life will be held on Saturday, February 26th at 2:30 p.m. at Metcalf in John Funeral Home, 4291 Cascade Road, Southeast Grand Rapids. So here's the deal. Like, you read that or you listen to that and you hear that. For those of you, again, who knew her, I'm sorry. I wish I would have met her. But to think in any way, shape, or form that we have to stop serving, that there's an expiry date for when we can continue to give to this world and be part of it, to be viable, to give, would be a mistake. Dr. Trainer, I think, in the way she chose to live her life, showed us becoming a teacher later in life and then earning her doctorate at the age of 64, that education truly is a transformative opportunity for so many. And it's that opportunity that this Board of Education and those who serve this district are committed to providing for each of our 6,700 kids, regardless of the obstacles, regardless of the politics, regardless of whatever. And Dr. Trainer, thank you. And let's all try to be a little bit like Dr. Rita once in a while, and when we think we're tired, it's amazing. So, and I know, Steve, you were U of M in Dearborn as well, as an instructor and so on, and I'm sure you saw folks come through there that were making their new start in life. And I think that's the beautiful thing about education. So thank you for allowing me to read that. I didn't plan on it, but when I looked at the obituary again and read it again, I can't think that a person, I think she worked in this office, correct? Down at the end. I couldn't leave this day without recognizing her. So thank you for your patience and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Weber, and I appreciate you saying that. I saw some things about her. I was curious to see who Dr. Rita was, and so I read her obituary as well and thought, wow, what a shame to never have met her. So I think it's wonderful to share who she was, maybe even with people who never had that opportunity. Dr. Kinzer?
Thank you, Dr. Ruskin. I just wanted to take this opportunity to answer Mrs. Murphy's question. Mr. Dukes will start tomorrow.
Well, there you go. To be determined.
Right? It's been
It
determined.
had to be determined by passage of the personnel report.
Oh, okay.
How many times has he heard, put up your?
Oh, goodness. Okay, thank you. We will move on to board communication. Does anyone from the board have any specific things to share? Mrs. Roney,
I'll
please.
go ahead. Last night I went to the,
CSBA.
there you go, thank you. I always screw up those letters. A little meeting last night, and they had Dr. Rod Green, who is the consultant for superintendents. You know, they do the superintendent reviews. He helps, find superintendents and whatnot. And he did say that if you have a good superintendent, you should hold on to them because they are few and far between. There's when you used to have like 90 or 50 applicants, now you're getting 10. And then a lot of times you're stealing them from other districts. So that was another thing. And one of the things he talked about was the superintendents, why they would go to a district or they would not, was their school board. And do they work well together, which I think we all do. So kudos for us. And we had a really nice meeting. And the next one is March, I think, 16th, 19th, something like that. March 16th. And then the awards banquet is June 15th, which if we don't have a conflict, we should all go. End of story.
Thank you, Mrs. Roney, and thank you for always attending and giving us an update when other board members can't. We do appreciate you. Any other communication, Mrs. Hood?
Yeah, I spent my lunch hour on Tuesday listening to the MASB Member Matters webinar. Don Juan Truba and
Brad?
Vanasek?
Yeah. talked through various issues. They did spend a bit of time on the revenue estimating conference. And they said that there is enough money to potentially pay off our MIPSers debt, which I find really hard to believe, but I will be interested in the assessment that Mr. McIntyre and his team do. Not that the MIPSers is your issue, but I will be interested to see, you know, what's the word I want? The largesse that apparently is in the school aid fund. So that's interesting. And then he also said that there was an unfortunate editorial in the Detroit News written by Ingrid Jacques, who is a longtime, well-known non-advocate of public schools. And then and I did not read it, I'm not a subscriber to the Detroit News, but he said that the MASB issued a response to that editorial on the 17th, I think. It might have been the 18th. So anyway, it might be interesting reading. I have not gone to the library to read those two things. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Mrs. Hood. Any other board communication? Mrs. Murphy?
I'll just say really quickly, I might be the only one that knew Rita, Dr. Trainer. And I appreciated you reading it because she was amazing. And Deerfield was her brainchild years and years ago. And I'm surprised that she was that old because she had so much energy all the time that it really was amazing. She was somebody who she was a champion of public education over and over. She was very approachable by everyone. A lot of people in the community knew her obviously very well because she'd either been their kid's teacher and that kind of stuff. So I appreciated that you took the time to read that and to recognize her because she was a big part of this district and she did a lot of really fantastic things for us in this district, in my opinion. And yeah, when she decided to retire, it was a very, very large not a celebration. There was a outpouring of people that came to wish her well in her next chapter of life. So, yeah, she'll be missed, I think, in the Grand Rapids area, just like she was when she left here as well. So,
thank you, Mrs. Murphy. Is there any more board communication?
Just want to ask, I don't know if I missed it, did we, as a board, thank Chartwells for the wonderful?
No, please do.
Oh, okay.
Show off our fancy gift. It's always fun to be treated well.
So anyway, we as board got this wonderful gift from Chartwells. I don't know if it was from them formally or from.
I think it was from them, but Kim Sinclair
So
is
Kim
our
was the one that put it all together?
director.
Correct.
It's just really neat. Every now and then we'll get a trinket that's nice, and having 3 kids at home, something like this is wonderfully. Although I bet when I get home there aren't any chocolate-covered strawberries. those might be missing.
Go sugar them up, Tom.
Oh, no, I'm saying between here and the way home.
oh, God, yeah.
Kroger, you're lucky you got one at all. So anyway, thank you, that's nice, and it's thoughtful, and it's a beautiful package, and the cookies are very well decorated, and I just thought that was cool. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Smith. And that's a good reminder. I know that Unified Basketball is tomorrow, and you know, I know that I have slacked, if you will, in going to the cafe over at the library. So maybe just another reminder that we just have a really great working collaborative relationship with Chartwells, and the cafe over there services our community. But the NATC kids still work there and run that establishment. So just a reminder to maybe get back in the habit now that you know, the library is always open and we can throw our masks on and go in there and support our kids and Chartwells. I think that is a good opportunity. Any other board communication?
We did, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we did make the Novi note, not the Novi News.
I love that you cut it out.
Otherwise, I won't remember. Novi District to host events supporting Oxford Strong fundraisers. So they list the you know, the February 4th games. So it was nice.
That's great.
And actually how to get a shirt too, so.
Shirts are ordered, and Mr. Cook loves the saying of Novi Community Schools District supports Oxford Strong, right? So we will be doing that in the next couple weeks. All righty. Do you have anything, Mr. Cook?
Just the unified game reminded me that CPAC has their annual Above and Beyond nominations going right now. And I'm surprised you didn't mention it, but.
I am actually just a consultant for them at this point. So,
But anybody who is nominated gets recognized. And it's a wonderful opportunity to really recognize people that help out those kids with special needs. Whether it's a bus driver, whether it's the parapro, whether it's another student. Students kind of get left behind on this, but it's a great opportunity, and I hope that we get a lot of students, because those that have been nominated are really proud of that. So, and to follow up with what Ms. Roney said about our board functioning, I did get an opportunity, kind of the geek I am, I was back in my hometown and attended one of their board meetings. A little bit different. They couldn't even get a nomination for their bank, or for where they post their notifications. They wouldn't nominate anybody, they wouldn't, where they normally do it, they wouldn't nominate an alternate, they had to table it for further discussion. But at least we come here knowing what we want to do, how we're going to do it, and get things done. And we all work as 7 individuals for the students. We all have different ideals, but we have one goal. So to see way other boards do it makes you appreciate the way we do it.
thank you, Mr. Cook. I appreciate that. Do we have any other, Mr. Mena, do you have anything?
Well, I didn't, but I thought I wanted to take the time and thank Mrs. Holly for finding us that new clock up there. I had, kind of dropped that a while ago. I just kind of mentioned, hey, you know, they do this in a lot of other towns, mostly like city councils and stuff. They have those clocks up there, and I think folks really appreciate when they're going up there knowing how much time they have left. I just kind of mentioned it during passing, and then all of a sudden I get a call this week. She told me it was installed, so I had to go out and take my 3-week course, getting certified and on how to run it. But so thank you. I know it's a small thing, but it's very much appreciated.
I would say that's some excellent executive functioning.
As long as we can use it for Dr. Kinzer.
Right. All righty. Well, thank you so much. And Mr. Mena, I was going to say something, and then I didn't prepare it, and so I'm not going to not say something, and you can correct me on this. I know that you most recently received an award. I saw something on Twitter from this is where I need your assistance, because I didn't actually.
Michigan High School Football Coaches Association.
Thank you. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I also wanted to thank you for all the time and the hours and the energy that you really, truly put into our Novi athletics.
Thank you.
Because
Appreciate
every
that.
time I pull in the parking lot, there is Willie Mena's car. I don't think I've gone into that parking lot one time this year without seeing you there, but really I saw that, and I just wanted to congratulate you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Okay, no other board of communication. I think that we can get a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Murphy, supported by Mr. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.